And there are circumstances like the one you describe in which giving that hand out could be the thing that actually ends up taking someone's life ultimately. And real compassion is a response that requires and expects the individual to show up in their own life.
And I didn't mean to run American Academy. I was on the board, but eventually the board asked me to step in temporarily as the leader, which I did. And 10 years, 3 campuses, 3,000 kids later, I was still running American Academy.
She worked every night cleaning Central A&M Texas University, whatever it's called. And during the day, she was a student in the classroom. So over a period of 10 years, she logged more than 26,000 miles behind her custodian's cart. She also earned 4 college degrees, including a master's degree, and she will start teaching in the fall. Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the very aptly named Mandy and Deb show.
And it's aptly named because this is my friend Mandy.
And this is my friend Deb. And together we're going to do a show, okay?
Called
So Mandy and Deb.
Deb.
All right, don't forget before you do anything else, click the subscribe button right down there. It would be a big, big favor. That way you won't miss any episodes. And also, we're going to ask for 2 things. We're going to ask you to go to our social media page,
Yes.
which happens to be Mandy ampersand Deb.
We're fancy,
Yeah.
yes.
Join us there for conversation and whatnot.
Yes, indeed. And we want to hear from you because we've got some great segments coming up. As always, we have issues. I know everyone knows that, but we actually have it in the show. We have stuff where we talk about things that intersect your lifestyle in some way. And then we always have good news. So we're going to kick it off, by the way.
With issues.
We do. Because, okay. And this is the fun part.
The
We're
clicker.
high tech, by the way. Click. We've got issues.
We
There
do
go.
have issues. And, one of the biggest issues that we face here in the Denver metro area, in Colorado, in the United States right
Yes.
now is the issue of homelessness.
Indeed.
And we spend a lot of time talking about that on my radio show. And one of the organizations that I love, is one of the best pieces of the puzzle here in Denver, and it is Step Denver.
Yes, indeed. Great organization, deals with homelessness and addiction and that intersection. And joining us, we have Meghan Shay. She's the executive director of Step Denver. Meghan, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. It's such an honor to be here with you. And thank you for tackling this issue that I know affects all of us on a day-to-day basis.
Honestly, Meghan, I thought of you the other day when I saw someone panhandling on the side of the road, and I saw someone stop and roll down their window and give them $5. And all I could think of was the founder of what was then Step 13, Bob Cote, used to say, when you give money to someone panhandling, you are buying their death on the installment plan. And I think of that every single time, but it's so overwhelming. You just want to help these people in need. So I want to start by talking about what you guys do, because I think the program that you guys offer is so phenomenal and so effective. So let's kind of start with a solution, and then we'll have a bigger conversation about some of the other issues.
Thank you. Well, I agree. And, these are lessons that I have to say I learned coming to STEP 6.5 years ago. I think most of us who are, in any way associated with compassionate responses and wanting to help people in anything in the human services field, we have been conditioned to think that you give at all costs. And what I have learned in my time at STEP, primarily through my time with the men who have experienced homelessness, who are getting their lives back through our program, is that compassion often can be doing more harm than good. And there are circumstances like the one you describe in which giving that hand out could be the thing that actually ends up taking someone's life ultimately. And real compassion is a response that requires and expects the individual to show up in their own life, to be willing to put in the effort, to be willing to have a two-way street in that response to assistance, that they are receiving, of course, all of the services that they may possibly need. Of course, when you're in that circumstance, it's a heavy lift to try to come back from nothing. And it's very daunting and overwhelming and quite frightening, actually, for people. And so what we do at STEP is we say, okay, we're going to show up and give you the, free housing immediately, food, clothing, shelter, hygiene items, all of your basic needs will be met. You can now get out of survival mode. You don't have to live like that anymore. And with that support, we are expecting that you are going to be accountable. You are going to put in the work. You are going to show up every day in your life to be able to put in the effort and make real progress. And the difference of STEP, really, I think the key is that there's an off-ramp to that help. We are helping men become self-sufficient and, achieve lasting sobriety, be able to rebuild every aspect of their life that's been destroyed in the safety of this peer recovery community and with all of the addiction recovery, life skills, and workforce development programming that we have. And we are helping them become someone who can be a productive, contributing member of their families and the community so that they then free up space for the next person who needs help. And so I think that shift in understanding what real compassion is and what that means is something that's greatly needed for those of us who care. And I don't think any of us are intending to do more harm than good, but that often is where our compassionate hearts lead us.
Yeah, that really reminds me, and I love the fact, I think, first of all, I got to give a shout out that STEP Denver's success rate is double the national average. And when you think about, people, everybody watching, everybody wants to do something compassionate. And I remember reading this really disturbing story where in San Francisco, when they just did housing only and they put everyone in a hotel and other places, I think within a certain amount of time, like 40% of the people that they were trying to help died because they were not addressing the need. Let's talk about that because there's two views. There's housing first or housing only, and there's housing with accountability, which you just talked about. Can you talk about why that really is the most compassionate because it makes a difference? What is that magic component of accountability that makes a difference?
Well, I think for any of us who've had anyone in our lives suffering the disease of addiction, we know that with that, there is this inherent defense mechanism to blame, manipulate, lie, point the finger, make it anyone's fault or any circumstance's fault, right? Not my own, so that you will still love and accept me and not cut me out from the family or in some cases, cut me out of society as a whole. And so what we're telling our men is we understand that that was your natural defense mechanism. But now that your mind and body are free of substances, you are now responsible for your choices, actions, and behaviors. And those have outcomes in the real world. Positive outcomes are rewards, negative outcomes are consequences. And that's how our framework is really built here to be able to affect a behavioral change over time. You can't expect that someone will come out of years on the street, living in survival mode and chaos, trapped in the throes of their addiction, and that they will immediately be able to snap to structure and responsibility and making good choices in their day-to-day. So that takes a program that really builds in the accountability and expects that people are going to take responsibility for their actions now that they have choice. When you are active in that addiction, you do not have choice, but you do once you are free of that. And that's really what we're doing is saying, we understand that you're coming to us with nothing and we're going to give you this opportunity. But that doesn't come without some expectation on your part. And if people are going to invest in you, you have to be willing to invest in yourself.
Meghan, years ago, even before you got to STEP, I interviewed someone who had graduated from the STEP program. And he said something to me that was so interesting and compelling. And I will never forget it. He said, STEP Denver reminded me that I was a human being and they helped me build my dignity back. And the way he said it, build my dignity back, because he said when he was living on the streets, he had lost any semblance of his own humanity. And he had forgotten that he was a human being. He had forgotten that he was a child of God. He had forgotten all of these things. And just by having to be accountable and doing the things that you guys made him do, he got his life back. And it was very, very powerful because up until that point, I was the person that was dropping $5 in someone's cup. I have always kind of been a soft touch, but knowing that that is not helping that person and it's probably going to make them worse, it's wonderful to see what happens for these men. And aren't most of the people that work at STEP, aren't they graduates of the program?
They are actually, yes. So just to share with your viewers, STEP is a residential recovery program that specifically helps men who are experiencing homelessness, but we do that through a peer recovery method. So actually 17 of our 23 employees are alumni of our program who have gone on to have great success in their lives, have come back to work for us as full-time employees, and there's an immediate respect, trust, and credibility that comes with the person who is offering you guidance. Obviously, everything is a program of suggestion that the men choose to take or not. In most cases, they do, fortunately. But with that suggestion, you really need the person who's holding them accountable, helping them set goals, break through different roadblocks that they may face along the way, to be able to say, I've walked this path, I went through this program myself. This is the life I have now. And if you want that, I can help you get there, and we're in this together. And so that really is the heart and soul of our model, in addition to the fact that they're living it in real time, because we help our men get full-time tax-paying jobs in the community. Almost 100% within 45 days have that full-time job. They are out putting into practice in real time on a daily basis everything they're learning in our program, and really building that foundation and evidence for themselves that they can do this. And that, I think, is where the real success lies, where we have those outcomes that are more than double the national average, because it's a daily practice that they're experiencing.
It's a fantastic program. I have done a tour of the facility, and if we had days to go on about this, I would tell you about how you can tell the men that have just come in the program by the way their beds are made. Versus the men who have been in the program for a while, their beds are made with like hospital corners, and they are tight. You can bounce a corner off them, and you can see the progress in this line of beds in the shelter area of STEP Denver. And it's such a powerful metaphor for what you guys do. I have little goosebumps right now thinking about it. It's really powerful.
My favorite
and it's
part of the tour.
It must be gratifying to do what you do, Meghan, and know that you're actually saving people's lives.
It is, but I always want to give credit where it's due, which is to the men. And I am so grateful, and it's so fulfilling and rewarding to be a part of a program that's actually working, that is putting the men that we serve first. We are building a program and continuing this legacy of the program that came prior to me being here. We are really nurturing that in a way that is protecting what has proven to be effective for these men. And frankly, that is a pretty simple solution. It's hard work, but it's a simple solution. But at the end of the day, we could have the best program that exists, and it wouldn't matter if the men don't choose to put it into practice every day in their own lives. So I always feel inclined to put that credit where it's due, which is on the men who are putting it into practice, and their courage and resilience and grit, frankly, that they exhibit every day is tremendous. And there are moments, Mandy, as you said, every day where I'm having to hold back tears. And, when a man comes back from his day of searching for a job, and the first person he sees, he has to say, I got a job today. And you see this self-esteem that's restored, self-worth. And the little things that we take for granted, I have to tell you, we certainly as staff can't, because when a man, again, pulls out his drawer in his room and says, look at all my socks. I have this job, and look at all my socks. Wow. And you realize the things that we really truly take for granted that means so much to someone who's coming back from nothing. And that sense of achievement, that they've done this on their own, yes, with support, right? But they went out and got that job themselves. They are the ones who are putting in the effort and seeing that progress. That's why it sticks. That's why our outcomes after they leave our program, first of all, we're able to reach 85% of our men last year. 12 months after they left our program, we were able to make contact with 85% of the men. And of those, 85% were still sober, 90% were still housed, 75% were still employed. And so when you see those kind of outcomes, you know that the path that allows a person to have their own agency and to stand on their own 2 feet is the one that really works. And if you do for someone something that they're capable of doing for themselves, you will not have those kind of outcomes.
Yeah. Amen. Preach it, sister.
Amazing.
Preach it, Meghan Shay, Executive Director from STEP Denver. If you want to support this organization, they don't take any government money. You can donate. You can donate a car. They have a great car donation program by going to stepdenver.org.
Yes.
Stepdenver.org.
Thank you.
Meghan, thank you for all you do.
Yeah.
I feel like what you do at Step Denver, I say all the time, you are doing God's work on this planet. I really believe that.
I agree.
Because anything that helps these people get their humanity back, that's just it's such a gift you're giving.
Yeah. Thank you
There's
so much,
nothing
Meghan.
greater. Thank you. We are all incredibly grateful, and it's only possible because people support this program and believe in this model, this method, these philosophies, most importantly, believe in our men. So thank you to your viewers who may be supporters already, and thank you for helping spread the word about this method and how it works. We're hoping that it will become the norm and the response to these issues nationwide, and that is our goal. So thank you for spreading the word.
Yeah,
Thanks,
thank
Meghan.
you. Appreciate
That's
it.
Meghan Shay,
Thank you.
Executive Director of Step Denver. Can I just make a comment? And I would
Yeah,
not
and
have
then
asked Meghan about this. Our Denver mayor has created a homeless task force, and I know for a fact that I tried to set up a walkthrough of Step Denver with the mayor. I personally invited him to go and said, look, I will meet you there. We'll do this. And they never took me up on it
Yeah.
because they're wedded to housing first. And now they have addicts in hotel rooms that are dying of overdoses.
That's
So
what's happening. Well, and I think no, you bring up a great point because everybody cares about this, but more money is not necessarily the answer. I remember looking at this problem, and it was before the current mayor of Denver, and there were more facilities like Step Denver, which are phenomenal, that were actually treating the core issue with the goal of getting people to not be homeless, to be contributing members of society, to have dignity, to be earning their own way, not just to keep them dependent. And many of those places were their funding was cut. They were shut down at the same exact time that millions and millions and millions of dollars were being put into things that don't work.
Well, the problem in the grand scheme of things is that the housing, the Department of Housing and Urban Development, HUD, adopted housing first as their policy, which meant if you wanted federal dollars for your program, you had to adopt housing first as your policy. And it's been an abject failure and a disaster. And when you see a program, Step Denver is wonderful. There's another one that I love here called the Other Side Academy that also works with women. And it's a very similar program. It's about accountability.
Yeah, or the Springs Rescue Mission.
Yes.
There are so many, the ones that work, all we need to do is look at what works. And feel free to make your voice heard on this because it's as much even in some ways as your own city. There are different city programs that do it the right way. Doesn't mean that you just leave them on the street until they say, I'm going to do a job. You get them off, but it comes with accountability. And the goal always at the end is to have these people get out of this cycle of homelessness, not just we'll give you a home and maybe someday you'll wake up and, and
want to be clean.
Yeah, exactly.
In
That's
the throes
not
of
how it
addiction.
works.
That's not really how it goes, but whatever. Keep dreaming. Keep dreaming. Anyway.
Well, we're going to move on now to We've Got Stuff. And I got to click this. And excited for our next guest because I happen to be a Douglas County school mom. I know you are too. And so our next guest is going to talk about something of which I know nothing, which is a lot of technology, but I know is incredibly important. We know is incredibly important when it comes to education. There's a lot of breakthroughs. There's also trying to find that balance. So we're happy to have joining us Erin Kane, the Superintendent of Douglas County School District. Welcome, Erin.
Thank you so much for having me.
Well, Erin, I want to start a little bit with your background because a lot of people may not know you don't come from what I would call a traditional education background as a school superintendent. No. So tell people how you went from engineer to school superintendent. How did that path happen?
Sure. Yeah, I definitely charted a very unusual path for a school superintendent. My degrees are in computer science and applied mathematics engineering from CU Boulder. So I spent a decade working in what we now call data science. So I was a data guru, and that is what I did for a decade, and I absolutely loved it. But then we had 3 children, and the wheels came off at home, and I made the decision to stay home. It didn't last really long, but I tried. And so I stayed at home. My oldest was going into kindergarten, felt really strongly that our kids at an elementary age should be exposed to more STEM. STEM wasn't an acronym back then, but should be exposed more to that math, science, technology, engineering areas. So I got it in my head to start a charter school. And I did that in 2004. I started American Academy, which I'm still so proud of today. And I didn't mean to run American Academy. I was on the board, but eventually the board asked me to step in temporarily as the leader, which I did. And 10 years, 3 campuses, 3,000 kids later, I was still running American Academy. And then at that time in 2016, when our superintendent quit the school district and things were a little bit chaotic, to put it mildly.
I was going to say that's an understatement if ever there was one.
That's a whole nother show.
Yeah.
Definitely. Now I could do an entire feature movie on that. But anyway, I was asked to step into the school district temporarily. It seems to be the story of my life. And I did not want to. Superintendent has never been on my bucket list. Working for a school district was never on my bucket list. I said no for 2 months. And then I finally agreed to do it because we had all these teachers and all these kids that needed someone to come in and take care of them. So I did that for 2 years, loved it, went back to American Academy when my interim time was over. And then I was named as the permanent superintendent in 2022.
Great.
Long journey, but there it is.
Well, I think that matters for the points of our conversation,
Yes,
though,
it
because
does.
not only are you the superintendent of Douglas County Schools, you are also, and I want to make sure I get this title right, you are part of the Google GSV Education Innovation Fellowship. That sounds very pinkies out right now. Yes, pinkies out on that one. What is that?
Sure. I'm really excited to have been selected among a very small group of system leaders across the country to be part of the Google GSV Fellowship. Basically, we all go in with a problem of practice, and Google provides a lot of executive coaching, which is really great for leaders of school systems, as well as kind of working through solutions of those problems of practice by really leveraging the latest in technology innovations. Google is certainly a leader in the evolving space of AI. They've just done incredible work, and things are changing and moving so quickly. So it feels amazing to be able to be on the leading edge of all of that change. I'm seeing these products before Google even releases them, and are thinking about, how can we leverage that to help our school system and ultimately the outcomes for our 62,000 students.
Yeah, and if I may, so when you're there and you're seeing these things, what are some of the glimpses, if you can share them with us, of what might be coming in the education space?
What's teed up and ready to go that our kids that are in school now are going to be okay, let's go?
Well, I can tell you about a lot of the things that just got released that are pretty incredible. Google has taken Gemini certainly up to, for those who don't know, Gemini is Google's artificial intelligence center. They've moved Gemini up several notches. So it's amazing just the work you can do with Gemini. They made a lot of changes to Google Classroom, which is their education space work product. And it's absolutely incredible. I was demoing it and I was looking for, a 5th grade lesson on the Declaration of Independence, using the state standards that Colorado has for literacy. And it just created this amazing high quality lesson plan with lots of rigor, and allowed me to very easily turn it into games or some kind of deep thinking assignment or different things that kids can do. And you can just make these so quickly so that if you think about an individual child, you can actually personalize learning like we have never been able to do in education before. You can change the level of the text so that a student that is reading perhaps at a lower reading level due to an IEP or whatever is able to still consume that text and get the same thing out of it. The innovations in languages is incredible. As we see more and more students speaking more and more languages, we now have the ability for the kids to do the problem in English, but be tutored in their own language. It's just absolutely incredible how much this can equalize the playing field for our kids. Really, really amazing. And save our teachers so much time.
Well, I was going to say, I speak to a futurist named Thomas Fry on my radio show, and one of the things we talk about is the future of education. And he said, look, we're going to get to a point where every kid is going to have an education bot that starts with them in kindergarten. and they're going to grow with them as the child grows and learns. And they'll basically be that kid's tutor. So the teacher will be able to fill in the gaps and sort of help and assist, but not necessarily try to create a lesson plan that works for 30 kids in a classroom. To your point, you could tell that kid's bot, this is where this kid is going to need help. So it's amazing the kind of specialization that we're going to get from this stuff.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting. I mean, I'm obviously old school in a way too, because computers in the classroom are a relatively new thing. And what you're describing seems like it's really great for teachers in particular to come up with lessons plans.
Yeah.
But I think one of the things I also hear on the other side is, where's the space for what we call low-tech learning? Things like, writing, working with your hands, cursive, all of these things that actually also work in a different way, and that human interaction. So what's that balance?
You're so right. It's so important. And especially as we're seeing all of the brain science research around, for example, device usage for our younger kids. How can we kind of address that tension in technology from how do we minimize the negative impacts while making sure that our kids are completely prepared to go lead the world that they are walking into. And so I would give you one example, Deb. I mean, imagine a flipped classroom, only it's completely different now. Let's say the teacher can put all the great content and skills into a product like Notebook LM, where you put in all the information that you want, and then the student can consume that information at home in whatever way works best for them. So I like to have it create me a podcast. Did you know Google can actually take all this information together and create a podcast?
It's taking our job.
You can ask questions.
Not as charming as we are.
It's absolutely amazing. So for our kids who are auditory learners, they can learn that.
Oh, Erin, you froze.
Technical difficulties. See, it's all about technology.
It is.
And we're having
Technology's
technical
trying to shut us
difficulties.
down to take over our podcast.
Oh my goodness.
Let's see if she figures out that she's frozen in place.
Yeah.
This is technology. But no.
By the way, while we're thinking, what I'm imagining, I just got to bring it back to the world that I live in sometimes. I think about Star Trek, where Spock was in his own pod. And I think that what's interesting about talking about the balance is always making sure as well at the same time that there is that human interaction, that there is that disconnect from a screen.
One of the things that and hopefully we'll get Erin back.
Yes.
She's frozen on a very funny picture. So that's actually entertaining me. Hopefully we'll get her back in just a second. But that is a big issue right now. And it's not, there she is.
Oh, there she is.
We were just vamping until you came back, Erin. So yeah.
My internet went down.
No, that's okay. That's okay. So you were actually talking about doing a flipped classroom where the kid would be able to learn something in whatever way works for them. And I think that kind of specialization, while still maintaining the classroom, because I think there's value in learning together.
Well,
I've always thought there's value. And, the concept of homeschooling, I love it because then you could focus just on your kids. But I do think that there's value in sharing these lessons together.
And also, by the way, a teacher actually teaching the material, because something comes to life when the teacher does that. But you were finishing up about a flipped classroom.
Sure. Well, and then the possibilities are just endless. But if you can imagine homework happening in the classroom, because that's where the deep learning is really happening, is in the application. And that can include the teacher sharing the content in the way that is very special for that teacher. Absolutely. But the possibilities, I think, to really personalize learning for our kids while making sure that we save the teachers so much time that they can actually practice their craft instead of doing administrivia, and be able to truly connect with and teach those kids. I think it's just, the possibilities are absolutely amazing. And in Douglas County, we're working hard to find that balance to address that tension, but also to make sure that our kids are really ready to learn, ready to lead. We don't want our kids to just be ready to adapt. We want them to lead, right? And if we think about AI, I think there's three ways to think about it. One is it's a great tool to save teachers time, save leaders time. I save so much time every single day using AI. Two, it's a great tool to help teach kids, right? So they can get that tutor bot that you mentioned, Mandy. They can get tutoring in their own language. They can do, flipped classroom types things. But three is that we have to teach kids how to ethically and responsibly leverage AI for themselves, so that when they go out into this amazing workforce that is being developed right now as we're speaking, they're really ready to take full advantage of everything available to them so that they can go be incredibly successful. And I think if we always address those 3 pillars, we'll be doing great.
Erin, I want to ask you specifically about something that is technologically based, but not super popular. And it seems to be that we're moving towards a place where, and maybe this isn't true in Colorado because of our unfortunate history of school shootings, phones in schools. We're seeing more, studies that say these are damaging to kids. I have friends who teach in the Orange County School District in Florida, and they have said after they didn't think it was a good idea, they're seeing kids interact in a way they haven't. They're seeing kids pay attention. How does Douglas County come up with a policy, and what do other school districts do in this case?
Well, that is something that we're working through right now as part of our strategic plan. So we gathered tons of feedback from our community, our workforce, our students, our staff on a million things, but one of them was how to address cell phones and cell phone policy. And so I think you'll see us over the next few months developing really great policy based on research for our schools and how you handle them in elementary school, where you should probably have a bell-to-bell ban, and middle school is often different from how you would handle them in high school, right? We have to teach our kids and ourselves how to responsibly leverage these devices.
She froze again, but that was like a perfect ending.
Well, there we go. So there we wound it up.
Yes.
So that was Erin Kane.
Oh, wait, there she's back.
There
She
we
moved
go.
again. Okay, no, Erin, you finished it the perfect place. You froze, but it was fine. Erin,
Perfect.
now, when is this technology going to, are you already using it in Douglas County? When are parents going to start seeing some of these things that we just talked about being rolled out into the classrooms?
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
I'm so sorry. I'm in a very I'm not in my normal place with my normal interconnect connection. So you asked, I'm so sorry, I lost track.
No, that's okay. I was just asking, when are we going to see this technology really roll out?
Oh, sure. We've been rolling it out. We'll continue to roll it out. We've done a lot of AI pilots in Douglas County. So you're already starting to see it in classrooms as we help our teachers be prepared for, again, that safe, ethical, responsible use of AI. In terms of policy on cell phone and other things, you will definitely see that in the next few months. So we're really rolling fast to make sure that we can provide our kids with the best of everything while maintaining those foundational knowledge and skills that we all know are so important. We can't ever lose sight of academic excellence, but we also have to figure out how to layer in what the kids are going to need as they go into the world.
Yeah. Thank you, Erin. We really appreciate your joining us today.
Erin Kane, Superintendent of Douglas County
me.
Schools, and tech nerd. We're just going to say
Yes.
tech nerd, Erin Kane, because she is, for sure. One of the things that I think about is there's more information coming out right now that says there's 2 different ways that you can use AI. You can use AI to do your thinking, or you can use AI as a tool for research, for finding out information. And they did brain scan studies, and especially in students, when students had ChatGPT write an essay for them, like they gave it a prompt, Chat wrote the essay, they turned the essay in, 5 minutes later, the kids could not tell you what was in the essay
because they didn't do the work.
Because they're letting AI do the thinking for them, and then you have people that they are using it as a tool and they're using it to gain information, as I use it, Deborah.
I know, because you're a model for all of us, Mandy.
It completely lit up different parts of their brain.
Well, and
it's
I think this is the big balance. It's interesting because when you think about certain aspect of technology, even Steve Jobs did not let his own children have a tablet because they understood, it can be mind-numbing if it separates you socially. And what you were talking about with the no cell phone use, there was another school, for instance, with Sarah Huckabee Sanders, the governor of Arkansas, they've been really eliminating it. And one of the teachers said they almost were in tears, and this was high school level, so where you think they'd always have their phone, because suddenly during lunchtime,
they were talking.
They heard laughter, they heard conversations, they heard all of this life, where before that, it was dead silent. And that's where it's dangerous. Yep. But as a tool for teachers, I can see that because it's not doing the thinking. So
I love it.
Okay. Sometimes I do wish I had AI thinking for me, though. But here we go. We have good news. So this is the segment where we talk about positive stories because, gosh, do we get bombarded so much, speaking of online things with negative stories. And there's so many good things that are out there. So I want to kick it off if I can,
Please
because it has
do.
to do with school, and it has to do with lunchtime, actually. So in North Carolina, I think everybody who was ever a freshman in high school knows that it is a tough transition. So the beginning of the story is not unusual. There is a freshman whose name is Cale Wren in North Carolina. He's shorter, and he talked about how his first couple of days were just awful. Not only was he bullied, he was called a loser because he was short. He was by himself, sitting alone at lunch. And I loved several aspects of this story. He actually shared this with his older sister, Leah Cale, who was absolutely heartbroken that her little brother was having such a tough time. So she used a positive thing with social media. She posted on Twitter. She said, "This was the interchange with my brother who was told he was a loser because he's short and is eating by himself. Please send him a positive message." Now, not only was he inundated with all these messages, he wasn't on Twitter, but his sister was. But who happened to see that post other than the big senior stud at the high school who was on the basketball team, on the football team, whose name, and I've got to make sure that I say it correctly, DeMontes Canada. What a great name, by the way.
That is like a cool,
I know,
like Hollywood.
DeMontes Canada.
You're going to be a star, DeMontes.
I know. You made that up, didn't you?
Yeah.
Anyway, I think he's a real guy because we saw him on the news story. DeMontes saw this and he said, "That's not right." So he got several of the other basketball players and football players to surprise Cale the next day of school. They met him at the door. They walked him around, introduced him to everybody as one of their best new friends, sat with him. I mean, this is like a movie. This is like every kid's dream, right? And they sat with him at lunch, and it just became this thing. And what I love about it is the sister gets credit.
Yeah.
The young boy, he said afterwards, his biggest wish is if anybody gets bullied, that they speak up so that maybe it changes for them. And then these young men, they actually belong to a club in the school called the Boys to Men Club. Now, it's not a religious club. It's not affiliated with any religion, but it's based on Christian principles of compassion, courage, what does it really mean to be a man, all of that. And these young men said that they were blessed to step in and do the right thing and help this young man. So I just think about that. I mean, as we're going back to school and all of that, talk to your child
About
and say,
being nice.
yeah, who could you be a hero to? You don't have to be the big stud on the football team to make somebody's day.
And
so
just be kind.
That's my story. Be kind.
Oddly, mine is also an education story, but a totally different kind of education story. Jessica Caldwell is a mother of 4. And she was a full-time custodian at A&M Central Texas University.
Yes.
She worked every night cleaning Central A&M Texas University, whatever it's called. And during the day, she was a student in the classroom. So over a period of 10 years, she logged more than 26,000 miles behind her custodian's cart. She also earned 4 college degrees, including a master's degree, and she will start teaching in the fall.
Oh my goodness.
She just graduated, and she, with her schedule, working all night, being a janitor, it was really hard for her to do some of this stuff, but she reached out to the professors, her counselors at the college. They all worked with her so she could work as a janitor and learn how to be a teacher at the same time. And she says, just be persistent as far as continuing on something that you want to achieve. A lot of people that have a job that they think they don't matter in, they actually do matter. So she is going to be a teacher now. And
I love that.
I love any story where someone just decides, I'm going to put one foot in front of the other and however long it takes. Because someone said to me years ago, I think I was like 40, so long ago. And I was
You were a
I'm a college dropout.
child, I tell
I am
you.
a college dropout.
Oh, really?
Yes, I'm a college dropout. I dropped out in my senior year. So I got all of the debt and none of the degree. But I was a theater major, so it wouldn't have mattered anyway.
You know I was a theater major
I know,
too.
and here we are, But I don't even know why I started this story. Oh, no, I was talking when I was 40. I said, I'm thinking about going back to school and just getting a degree.
Yeah.
Right? And then I was like, but God, I'm 40. I'm 40. And my friend looked at me and said, in 10 years, you're going to be 50 years old. You can be 50 with a degree or 50 without a degree. What do you want to do?
I love that.
Now, did I go back and get a degree? No, I did not.
But you could have.
I would be hell on wheels in a college classroom. I would, like, every professor on campus would be like, oh my God, I have her in my class this time. It would be a nightmare. And I've really thought about that. Like, do I really want to go just like glove it up every day? and duke it out philosophically.
But I love the fact that this woman decided to. You knew you could. I have a friend who got her law degree at 65 years old.
Good for
She
her.
went back. She'd raised her kids. She decided, you know what? Who says I'm too old? Who says it's too late? And even if, she didn't live a whole longer, she fulfilled something, learned something, grew. And whether it's that or something else you want to do, I love the fact of being a lifelong learner.
Yes.
Always, what's that next thing you want to learn about? What is it, what is that thing you've never tried? My mother once told me, she never got to do this. It reminds me of a story you shared previously, but she always said before she passed, she'd want to ride on a motorcycle. And she finally did get to once. And she then, right before she passed away, she goes, and in heaven, my motorcycle will be red. And I'm just like, right on, always live a life of adventure. So I think it's great.
I don't want to be on my deathbed thinking about all the stuff I didn't do.
That's exactly right.
I that's just not the way I read all these stories. I'm kind of fascinated with end of life stuff, not for any scary or creepy reason, but I believe that this is not the end game. I don't think we just take the eternal dirt nap and we don't go on.
Sure
so I'm kind of fascinated by the whole end of life stuff. And when I hear people who work in hospice and they'll talk about things that people who are dying consistently say.
Yes.
And it's usually a litany of regrets, of things I didn't do, of things that I should have done. So that's something I always think about before I say no.
Yes, I agree. And one of the things that those stories are very meaningful, because if we don't learn from those who have already lived a long time, there's wisdom in what they have to share. And one of the ones that we always say, by the way, in our family is, we will never want to regret not saying I love you to the people we care about. So we end every conversation that way. Okay, kindness challenge.
Okay, I've got it.
Kindness
and this is a good one, and it's an easy one because we all have email. And I just did this, and that's why I made it this kindness challenge. I read a really good article in the Denver Gazette about a restaurant that had closed and it was reopened. And I'd never been to this restaurant. I may never go to this restaurant, but the way the article was written, it was lovely. And it really made me understand why this particular restaurant was really important to the people that live in that area, right? And I thought, I'm going to let the author of this article know. And I wrote him an article. I wrote a note and said, I've never been to this place, probably will never go, but you really made me understand why it was so important. It was just a really beautifully done article.
I love that.
And I got a very sweet note back saying, wow, that was really nice. Whenever anybody compliments you out of the blue or just sends you something encouraging, it will inevitably lift your spirits.
Yeah.
So why not do that for someone else? And it doesn't have to be a work colleague. It could just be a newspaper person who wrote an article, or it could be the manager of a restaurant that you went to that you forgot to tell how great everything was. Then it's in writing, it can be shared, and it's just a really nice thing, when you got all the spam in your email box to get something nice like that.
Well, and that this is not mine, but the same thing, like if someone's done a great job for you in service, a plumber, a repairman, or whatever, give them that review.
Yes.
Take that time to do it. Well, we didn't coordinate this. Mine is very, very similar. And mine is...
Because we don't talk before the show.
We don't. Well,
we're one mind. We're just a hive mind now, so it's just all melding together.
Yeah. Exactly.
I go Star Trek, you go Charlie's Angels. That says a lot about us, doesn't it?
But I went Star Trek earlier.
Okay, that's true.
There we go.
That's true.
So here's mine. On social media, there is so much negative stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And it seems like everybody goes to social media to attack or to say something negative about somebody or to air some grievance. There's that ability to separate yourself out. You wouldn't normally talk like that normally to someone's face. Maybe you would, and that's not a good thing. But
maybe that's why you're home alone on the internet.
That's why you're only
saying stuff like that to people's face.
Because you're only on the internet, because you don't know other people. But it's an opportunity, obviously, watch out for boundaries or personal information, but say something nice about somebody on Facebook. If somebody did something nice to you and they're a friend on Facebook, thank them there as well, or compliment, or talk about a restaurant you went to that was great, or something you saw that was good. It's just amazing, and it'll change everything of how you feel. When people are negative all the time, it begins to change you inside. Try to find how many times you can say something positive. Even commenting on somebody's story and just saying, yeah, but isn't it neat that they did this? Don't argue with them, but say something positive instead. That's my
friend Father
challenge.
Mike always says, you find what you seek.
Yes.
And if you are looking for the positives, you will find the positives. And if you're looking for something to be mad about, you inevitably will find something to be mad about.
There's plenty for that.
Yeah.
So, but there's just as many good things. So we want you to also share those stories. So go to our Facebook page, Mandy ampersand
Ampersand Deb.
because we're fancy.
You know,
Go
people are
there.
writing out ampersand. Like, I don't even know if I could spell ampersand.
I don't know if there's
Squiggly
is there a T
and.
in there? Whatever. That symbol.
Squiggly and.
That symbol right there. But please go there on Facebook. Share good news stories with us that you want to have highlighted, everyday heroes, or topics that you want us to talk about, because we will find the guests that will bring the information to it. So please go to our Facebook page and subscribe.
Hit the subscribe
Right there.
button. That way you won't miss the show. Because
Indeed.
you'd be a big loser if you missed. I'm just kidding.
no,
You're not really
Mandy,
a loser.
that's not positive.
It's not an act of
Reword that.
kindness. I'm so sorry. You will be
Wishing
something of a
you
loser.
had, you'll have a regret at the end of your life.
You'll be so, yes, that's it. You'll be on your deathbed like, I should have watched that episode of Mandy Deb.
I should have reached out.
Anyway.
Thanks so much for watching. We really appreciate having this time with you.
Bye.